Hey y'all, welcome to Empowered by Michelle. And today we're going to talk about regret. I think after you get to a certain age, you start to look back over your life. Or maybe you don't even have to be a certain age. You just think about some of the things that you did, decisions that you made or didn't make, and you look back and maybe wish things were different. Whenever I come across the post when people say it's 1995 or whatever year it is, what's the first thing you do? And ever since March 12th, 2024, the answer has always been the same. I would go run and hug my father and insist that he never have back surgery. Prior to losing him on that date, whenever I would see things and posted, I would say, oh, I would have went to U of M, or I would have went away to school, or I would have um, transferred to Michigan State, because I remember talking to a friend, a childhood friend who actually went to Michigan State and was like, yeah, you should transfer. I remember having the application and want to transfer, but I think about all those different decisions, and it would have took me away from the destiny that I know without a shadow of a doubt, as I was supposed to be my daughter's mother, which means I would have had to meet my former husband. And even though the marriage ended, it produced our daughters. And looking back, I said, well, maybe, as soon as I used to say, well, as soon as I have my daughters, then I should have, left the marriage, because, things were happening then. But at this stage of the game, and we co-parent really well. Even now, we still co-parent. I mean, he's not a bad person. Um, it just wasn't meant for us to continue being married, and that's nothing but the grace of God. Thinking about that, and I know not everybody has that with their former spouse, that they could actually have a conversation um, and work collaboratively well. I don't take that for granted. God is just amazing. And like I said, even when betrayal hasn't happened, just seeing how, God has worked on me, I don't feel any kind of way. It's someone that I'm always going to be connected to, because we have our children. And it is what it is. And so I don't really look at things like that. My perspective definitely changed on it, on life, on everything, especially regret, when I lost my dad, because grief puts things in perspective like never before. I stopped masking. If you have ADHD or neurodivergent, you understand. I just don't have the energy for it anymore. And I began to realize that the mask, as much as you're trying to mask all of these different things about yourself that you feel like, okay, I got to make myself more palpable for other people, you're diminishing part of the essence that makes you you. So, or the essence that makes you you. And I realized that, looking back over the time, that there were people that I would mask in front of. Some of them, they just weren't nice to me. They weren't nice people to me. And then looking back, where I didn't have to mask, some of them either just accepted me for who I am, or looking back, talking to them now, because there's so many women, specifically black women, you know what, I think I might be neurodivergent. And it's okay. And it's good to know that. It's good to have that knowledge. Because looking back, wow, if I would have known, yes, if I would have known, my life definitely would have been different. But a lot of things make more sense to me now. So, living with regret, and I don't blame anybody saying, oh, I made a mistake. I mean, you learn from it. But certain things like wanting to go to HBCU, I went to a predominantly white high school. I did not have not one black teacher. My counselor actually laughed in my face when I talked to him about a particular school in New York and said, oh, you're never going to get in. And all I knew about this school was that it was a good school and that I had read about it in a book and someone talked about it. It was Cornell. And I didn't know about the requirements or anything, but it definitely had an impact on me because there weren't any other options. I applied to one HBCU, I didn't get in, and it was extremely competitive. So in my mind, I didn't have anyone saying, well, you know, there are other HBCUs where you can. I didn't have anyone. I kind of went through that process on my own. You know, Gen X, we was doing a lot of stuff by ourselves. And looking back, it's like, you know, goodness. And it's so interesting how things happen. I got into one of the, you know, Go Blue. I got into Michigan, but I decided not to go because high school was really difficult for me. And I knew it might be difficult for my sister, and I didn't want her to go it alone, so I ended up going to school and being a commuter student. I went to Wayne State. Now, I made friends that they are still part of my life. That's where I was inducted into the best sorority in the world, Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated, and those friendships. I have a lifelong friend that I met there at Wayne State. We still talk. What's up, Shirley? And all my sorors that I have grown close to over the years. In fact, my dean, she traveled with my sister and I, and some other sorors, and one soror that I had met that became a friend. That's another thing. You can make friends in your 50s. You can. We just kind of click. We are going to have lunch, girl. We went to Bali for my sister's 50th. Saying all that to say, it's like, yeah, I could have went to U of M. Yeah, I could have went to HBCU. And I think I would have had a blessed life, but God has blessed this life as well. But what's interesting, my oldest attends University of Michigan. My youngest attends North Carolina A&T. And I'm just like, okay, God, I see what you did. I see what you did there. So, regrets, at this point, it doesn't do any good. And I've spoken to people, friends, close family members. Yeah, woulda, shoulda, coulda. It's not going to change the past. The past is exactly that. It's the past. Now, what you can do, you can make decisions to lead you to the future that you want. Now, one of the things, and I'm putting my glasses on now because I'm getting a little tired and I don't want my eyes to continue working difficult. So, one of the things is you want to, I'm sorry, this girl is I think a fingerprint, and that's irritating. It's like a sensory thing. I don't like that. It's almost like that feeling that you have a tag on the back of your shirt and you're like, why do they even do that? Well, that's another video for another day. But anyway, the past is the past, and God knows your journey. So trust Him. Pray. I asked, I said, Lord, order my steps. And then when I listen to Him, when I listen to Him and something happens, oh, so that's why you had me do that. That's why you had me go this way. Or, it'll be a still small voice. Go do this. Go call that person. Go talk to that person. And sometimes you just gotta listen. But one thing that I've decided to start doing is when you start feeling those feelings of regret and, oh, I wish I would have done this, start thinking about those things you did that you think back, wow, I am so glad I was obedient and I did that. Rewinding back to 2020, I'm getting a house. That was in my mind. I'm getting a house. I'm going to get a house. I'm tired of renting. We had moved from the house that I lived with my former husband. And when he left, me and my daughters were there. And I said, we're getting out of here. And so I said, the first thing is, well, I can't buy a house, but maybe I can rent a house. I wanted to stay on the east side of town, because their schools was on east side in Detroit. So I said, well, if I'm gonna move east in the eastern suburb, it's got to be eastern suburb. So looked into East Point. I had a realtor. She helped me find this home. We rented it. Was there for 2 years, and that was what's supposed to be it. But then when my landlord came back and said, hey, would you like to rent for another 2 years? I did. So we were there for 4 years. But I knew I didn't want to do another 6 years. I said, no, it's time. At the time, I was working for a healthcare company, and I was doing sales. And I never wanted to have a job with sales, but I had that job in sales. And I said it was time. It was time. So I went ahead, and I had my credit had gotten under control. My student loan was paid off. I said, okay, let's do this. But then the pandemic happened. In March, I remember we were hearing about it at work. And we were all saying, why are we still showing up at work? And they was like, well, yeah, you guys still have to. And we were in healthcare, right? We were sales side, but it was still healthcare. And then when they closed everything down, I had already started the process because I was told no, but I think I may have shared in another video the wonderful realtor who was also previously, she was a daycare provider, and she took care of both my daughters and my nephew in her home daycare for a time. And she had transitioned from that. She was a personal trainer. Now, talking about somebody that's really eating life. Tiffany Lewis, girl, you better start you a YouTube channel if you don't have one already. If you do, let me know what it is, because you've really had such a life full of testimonies. Of it was like God said, I want you to do this, and she did this for a period of time. Then God said, do this, and I'm like, wow, that's just amazing. So now she's a realtor, and she would answer all these questions that I would post, and she was like, I'm finding homes for people every day during the pandemic. Got me with a mortgage company, and they worked with me. And like I said, I was going to get the house. And thinking back, what if I would have listened to that first realtor, that first mortgage company? What if I had listened to them? And I ended up getting my house. And then not only that, I got laid off after I got my house. Well, not laid off. They let me go. Let's call a thing a thing. They let me go because it's sales and you didn't do quota. Even afterwards, I found out that some people poached some of the, I don't want to say clients, but some of the patients, because my job was to bring in patients, And I guess the person felt bad because she called, oh, I didn't know. But she didn't tell me, but someone else called me and told me what it was. But I said, you know what? God is good. He took me out of there because I wasn't happy working there anyway. So I had been in a place working 2 jobs, low paying jobs. So I knew that God was going to keep me. I don't regret the decision of going ahead and getting my home, because it's my home. And when I walked in, I knew it was it. So that was a definite good decision. Then I was working as a independent contractor for a company, and it wasn't sales, but it was more promoting one of the health insurance companies. And I wanted to be on the event side because that's what my background was. I did a lot of that. And I don't regret applying for other positions. When they told me I was going to get a promotion, I didn't get a promotion. And then I got 2 job offers. One, they was gonna whisk me away to Florida, and it was so cold. But I said, Lord, I really don't want to go into sales. But the other company is the company that I'm with now, that I love. I'll be 5 years next year with the company. I have an opportunity to educate people, get out in the community, do events, do the position that I have wanted to do at the other position. So it's like, okay, now I'm going to take these off because my eyes. Now I'm putting these back on. See this? This is me, y'all. Yeah, it was a position that I wanted to do. I wanted to be a part of events. I wanted to help people. I wanted to educate people. I wanted my day job to reflect similarities to my business, to educate, engage, and empower. And hence the name of this video, Empowered by Michelle. So, regret is something that if you hold on to it, it can really do a number on your mental health. So I challenge you, if you are feeling regretful, there has to be one thing that you look back and say, you know what, that was a good decision. It could be even as small as, you know what, I'm going to go right instead of left, and I find a parking space in front of the building that I'm supposed to be going to. Celebrate small things. But those decisions have assisted me in ways that I couldn't even possibly imagine. Joining the church that I'm at. And I was married when I joined it. My daughters were 3 and 5 when we joined this church. In fact, I'm trying to think, were they 2 and 4? Because Sarah was about to start pre-K. I think they might have been, they were going 2 going on 3, and maybe 4 going on 5. So maybe 3 and 5, that might be accurate. And now my daughters are 22 and 20. And I've been in the same ministry. I've grown in this ministry, in the ministry. I was part of the dance ministry. I was a deacon. I'm currently an elder, virtual ambassador. I do marketing for the church when we have events. I did a community event called Care for Caregivers Day, and then started a series on grief that will be concluding in November. And I just think about, the fact that God placed me in a faith community. I don't even regret that. I don't regret it at all, because even though, and I say I don't even regret it, we joined the church because my former mother-in-law recommended Serenity because she was friends with our pastor. In fact, I believe she went to their wedding was in Texas, but they were at our wedding, me and my former husband's. But we had joined another ministry, and then God said, okay, it's time for y'all to move. And we were looking, and we ended up there. And, he moved my ex-husband out of state, and he's currently remarried, and he goes to another church. But I'm still at my church, at my home church, and I regret nothing. And I think I've talked about this in other videos. My heart goes out to anyone that had experienced any kind of church hurt while they were going through a divorce. My church is not cut like that. I had people speak into my life I still hold dear, so I try to sow that same seed in others, younger people, younger mothers, letting them know, you doing good, God's got you. And just the level of support that I've gotten there. So, yeah, I've gone through some things, but God has shown me so many different things. And then saying yes to serving Him. And it's just been great. And even now, as I'm in this season in my life, there are things, yeah, I wish there are certain things were different, but I want to cast out that whole regret and turn it into gratefulness and being grateful to God for what He has done for me and my family, what He has brought me through. I miss my daddy every single day. I think about the goodness of God and how He has carried me through. Because it was just the thinking about your parents passing, it was not like it was inconceivable. We knew, of course, we knew, logically, of course, intellectually, we know, eventually they'll be called home to glory. But when it happens, it hits you. And I just remember our pastor talking about grief and talking about what the disciples knew. They knew Jesus prepared them for what was going to happen. They knew it. But it still doesn't take away the grief. Mary knew it. To see her son being crucified, who was totally innocent, but he went because of his love for all of us. When I think about that, it's like I don't feel so alone, and you're not alone. So yes, I would love that things were different. Still will always feel that way. Always miss my daddy. Always be angry. Make peace with it. But yeah, sometimes I'm just mad that he's gone. Like, I won't get into names, but there are certain people, it's like, how is it my daddy is gone? It don't make no sense that he gone. And I have some sorors and friends who feel the same way. It's like, just don't make sense that they're gone. And I just like to think, and even that, I'm blessed that I had such an amazing father. Because in reality, I know that there are some people who didn't have that. They didn't have that privilege. And I got to know him. He got to know his grandchildren. And he was an amazing father. And the fact that I know that he's a believer, I'm going to see him. I'm going to see him one day. One day I will. So that brings comfort for me. And that helps with the regretful feelings. But the joy of just his personality and knowing that what he lived, he imparted in me. So that helps with that. Doesn't mean I don't cry. Doesn't mean that I just have those moments. Especially like, if you travel, my daddy was the first call, usually, mama in the background, how things go? How was the drive? Talking. And then my father would be like, Evelyn, do you want to talk to her? No, just put her on speakerphone. We'll all talk. So that's just kind of how it was, So yeah. You don't want to live with regret forever because it can also be paralyzing. And you're like, well, it doesn't work out. Just because something didn't work out once doesn't mean it won't work out again. Let me say that again. Just because it don't work out once don't mean it won't work out again. What is it that you want to do? Or if you don't know, but you know what you're doing is not what you want to do, get quiet. Prayer, fasting. It will help you realize some things. So, I just wanted to come on and talk to you all. I've been a little bit behind on this goal But it's okay. I'm only a little bit behind. I think I did 1 or 2 days where I missed, but my gardening channel, I've been doing it. Oh, y'all probably like, what are you talking about? Okay, August 1st, I was going to do 100 videos in 100 days. I was successful with one of my channels. This channel and the other channel, I believe I missed a day. But that was because I was traveling. But I think the goal, sometimes when you're given instruction, God knows you may not complete it because of whatever, but that doesn't mean you stop. I think that's the other thing. People are like, oh man, I slipped up and ate this. I might as well continue doing that. That's where the regret is like, no, no, no. Regret could be like an alarm. Oh, nope, you're not supposed to eat that. Stop eating it. You can start right now or start fresh tomorrow. But that doesn't mean that you continue doing what you're doing. Stop eating that. Because some people, well, I might as well finish the bag. You don't have to. You can put it away. I don't care what they say. You can't just eat one. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. If this is something that you really want to do and you really can try. So, with that being said, think about all the good things that you've done. Think about the successes when you start thinking about regret. Because like I said earlier, the past is just the past, but the future, there's opportunity. Let God lead you to the best life that He wants you to have. Take care now, and thanks for joining Empowered by Michelle. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe.